All right, yay! Welcome back, Double Teamed fam. How are we doing? Today we welcome Madelyn Moon, who is the author of Artist of Love. And she is here to talk about embodiment and, creativity and all these wonderful things. I can't wait to get started. Hi.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. It's so sweet to be here with y'all.
I think I said female, I meant feminine.
It's a female embodiment person.
I meant feminine, sorry. Oh, wait, no, you have our icebreaker. You take
Oh,
it away.
okay.
All right. Anyways, so we do like to start with a little bit of an icebreaker. Now, if you don't want to go too much into detail, that's totally fine. But today's icebreaker is going to be, what is your fave sexual experience outside of the bedroom that is brought to you by Personal Fave, our favorite lube?
Mm-hmm. Let's see. So this is my favorite experience as a whole. Like, I love when I do this, or there was this one time where I did this.
Can be
that kind of
either
thing.
or. Either one.
I actually have to think about my own too.
It is a little challenging. Especially on the spot. I'm like, what are all the places? Because see, the thing is, normally it's not, okay, this is not the bedroom. My favorite space is on a sheepskin in front of the fireplace. And there's a nice ice cold chilled champagne in a bucket, and there's like 3 sheepskins.
Where did you acquire these sheepskins?
Overland.com.
Oh,
Okay.
Overland.com.
Okay, so we
That
have
must
the
be another
champagne,
sponsor.
sheepskins, fireplace.
It's I'm very sensory type in like sexual experiences. I don't have to have these things, but if there is the possibility of having a fireplace and also being on top of sheepskins and having a nice cold beverage to like pour in my mouth and then spit it in my lover's mouth, like
Oh, wow.
these are all the
Okay.
things I want to do.
Interesting.
So that would be my favorite.
Okay, I love that. Now, my follow-up question, which is not related to like the sexual experience at all, but like, do you have anything under the sheepskin? Or because the reason I ask is because I'm just thinking of like hard ground plus a soft
rug.
fur. Yeah. Okay.
There's a rug,
Okay.
and then there's a sheepskin, and then there's another sheepskin on
Okay.
top of it. They're just
so
kinda
there's
overlapping.
they're on top of each
Yeah,
other. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
great.
It's soft
it
enough
adds-
to be.
There's cushion. Because I love like, getting on the floor and doing the dirty there. However, I don't like when my knees get hurt. So,
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I mean, there are some of the fluffiest sheepskins in the world. out there.
Overland.com.
Yeah, so you don't have to worry about it.
I actually not
once-
sponsored by Overland.com.
I know. I've thought about it multiple times of like the amount of people I have sent to Overland is ridiculous. So
Send him an email.
But I want to know, like, okay, I also love sheepskin rugs. Now, I've never had any experiences on top of a sheepskin rug to memory. But I will say one time, I went on a quest to find ethically sourced sheepskin rugs, like real ones. And I found a lady, she was an expat in Russia. And she had like this very boutique little shop where she sold the sheepskins of like sheep that I guess passed away in the nearby farms in Russia. And so that's why like the batches that she had were very sporadic and all like very different. And I just scoured the internet, found her, ordered 2 sheepskins. I had those rugs for like years and I loved them. And I think they're great for like the sensory. And I would like, my pets would lay on them. I would lay on them with my pets and just like cuddle, but I never thought to have sex on top of them.
oh yeah, it's a whole vibe. It is really lovely, especially also I like to have candles
Yeah.
all around like the space. So there's like pillar candles that are in the corner holding the fort down, and then there's like candles on the altar, and then I have like this massive like full wall of this beautiful mahogany bookshelf, and like there's candles all in there, and just
Oh, that's
everything
beautiful.
it's very hot. It's very hot. You want to have the AC on,
Yeah.
but it is very cozy and it's just delicious. I would rather do that than like I don't know. Every once in a while, like back of a truck, it's fucking hot. But also,
yeah.
Oh, that is hot. Wait, hold on. Are you a Taurus?
I'm not. But this whole thing I'm telling you about has been activated by Taurus people that
Really?
I've been with. Yes.
Interesting.
And it's turned on in me, but I'm Leo and I'm Virgo. I'm a lot of Virgo and Venus is in Virgo, so
Yeah.
it just fits.
Oh, our Venus is in Virgo.
Yeah, it's a great placement. Y'all gotta love it.
No, I love it too. But I get the sensory thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned the candles because you have long hair like me, and that is like one of my fears is like having too many candles on in the room and my hair just at one point whips over and
They're far away from me. They're around, this area, this little space is like really in the center, in the middle, and we keep all the candles around.
I love that. It sounds like you put or have put a lot of effort into creating the space as you go into an experience.
Yes.
And I'm just curious, like, when did you said some of it was activated by Taurus people in your life, which I love. But also, like, when did you start to like really be more intentional about creating the spaces to be more like creative or more conducive to like pleasure and all of that, like in your experiences?
Yeah, it's interesting. I had a lover that turned on all of this for me. And it was it's this lover who like, he was I've been with a few people who are quite a bit older. He was probably 17 years older than me. Oh. And he was a musician who was sleeping on the floor of his studio, didn't have a car, didn't have a home. And he blew my mind.
Wait,
and
wow, really?
It was such a, like, he was just one of these people that was like you are total artist. I mean, his life's work was the artistry, did not know how to really be in the material world. But at this time when I met him, I did not have a good connection to my own body. I did not have a good connection to sensuality. I was still like in shame if I bled on my period through my clothes, like humiliation, just so much shame I was working through. And on our second date, he took me to a nude springs. And I didn't tell him that I'd never done that before because I didn't want him to caretake me. So I was like, yeah, we're at Nude Springs. And he took me there on our second date. So we're naked. It was a big step.
That is, yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is like, he was just so free in his body. And that introduced me to being free in your body in spaces. And then he started teaching me all these tantric things like the sacred spot massage. And then he made me squirt for like the first time a man could make me squirt. And he had all these tricks.
At the hot springs?
Was it? There was definitely activity at the hot springs. That blew my mind.
Sorry.
And then I just continued to evolve. And then he had all these little rituals that he would include that were very like sacred, and he'd bring in the candles, and there's all these steps he'd want us to take to be intimate. But I was also just like, but I'm with, like, this man is not in the material world, like what I need. And like, there's just things that don't match, but like, wow, he's really blowing my mind.
Yeah.
And
was he a Pisces?
Gosh, I think he was something like that. He
really?
He definitely had to have a little bit of that. So yeah, he introduced me to this world. And
wow. I love that.
I was squirt whipped. Yeah.
Squirt whipped?
Squirt whipped.
And that was the first person you ever squirted with, you said?
Unintentionally, yeah. It happened before, but it was like, it happened before. And I remember I was like, what is that? We didn't know what it was. Yeah. So I went to the gyno and I asked. And she was like, well, sometimes you have a little to drink, you might pee yourself, and it's totally fine. Like, the gyno didn't even know what squirt was.
What?
Yeah. It was crazy.
That's funny that you asked your gynecologist, because I would have never asked my gynecologist.
I would have
gone to Reddit, Google, WebMD.
It was like my Kaiser Permanente.
Oh no!
She had no idea. She's like, it's okay, honey, that you're peeing yourself. And I was like, I don't feel like that was what that was. It was an ocean.
Okay, but wait, I want to know, how did he make you? Did he have like a certain thing he did to make you squirt intentionally?
Yeah. So there's this kind of old school tantric person, and just as I'm sharing names, I don't have any experience working with this. So, sometimes we find out stories of people who teach tantra that weren't all that safe or weren't all that great. I don't know about this guy, but he taught something. His name's Charles Muir, and he's like this kind of old school tantric man. I don't know if he's still alive actually, but he teaches something called like the sacred spot, and he'll like take people on these, retreats, and then you practice on each other. You practice like the sacred spot thing.
Wow.
And yeah, it was like, I had never experienced someone who had technique like that. So I was usually dating guys who were just like young boys and like didn't know exactly what they were doing. And then I met this musician man.
Sounds like quite the experience.
It was an interesting time. I have a lot of those very strange experiences that activate me in my journey.
But I mean, still, regardless, I mean, like you said, it had a very positive impact on you. So
super positive. After that, I was like, where do I go now? Like, what's next?
Yeah.
Because this is like a whole world that I want to be in. Then I ended up, I've been in like different tantric and polarity and embodiment spaces for years now. And that really started my journey in that way.
Mm-hmm. So he was like the fire or the match that lit the fire.
Sweet guy. Yeah.
I asked that whole line of questioning because I know for myself, like it took a very long time. I mean, it wasn't until maybe a few years ago that I actually started being a little bit more intentional about setting up my spaces for like, you know, pleasure or, you know, whatever. And actually in a lot of ways, like, and so I feel like that always tends to like come later in life. So it makes sense as someone who is older, who's probably learned a little bit about, you know, making your spaces, you know, your own before you go into something, and using that intention so that you can like increase the experience, whether it's, you know, your office space or your bedroom space or even just like your living room, whatever. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah. I love interior decorating as well. And my whole house I want every space in my house to feel as much of an altar as possible. Like I want the kitchen to feel like an altar. I want the living room to feel that way. I have like a tea room and an embodiment room and many different altars. And there's, you know, sheepskins everywhere in every room. And I want it to feel particular and a bit meticulous, but also like sweet and Venusian and
That's the Virgo
yummy.
Venus. Yeah.
Very much like I can't hang anything without a custom frame. Like nothing gets hung unless there is a gold custom frame and little things like that in my house. But it's good. It's like helped me create home.
And so that's the kind of work that you do. Can you describe a little bit about what you do like in your normal work as well?
Yeah. So I am a somatic facilitator. So I create experiences for people, particularly where they get to learn that their body is their ideal, most perfect instrument of anything that they want. So I have several veins of my work. One of the things that I teach is how to alchemize one's drama in life into dharma. So that is your way of being, your way of living. Oftentimes we get these experiences in our life that continue to happen. You're dating the same type of person. You continue to have betrayal with women in your life. You have the drama of being invisible, whatever it may be. Your soul chose the perfect family for you to come through that would create that drama, that would create that story, that trauma, that impact, so that your soul finally in this lifetime can learn how to alchemize it and evolve it. Because a lot of times it's the very things that we hold the most shame or pain or frustration around that ends up being our brightest, most beautiful life's work. My experiences growing up, I was raised in a very conservative Christian upbringing with some a restriction around expression, one could say.
Yeah.
And some challenges around, being who I am and being free, and it's no one's fault. It's just that's what my soul needed in order to learn how to create an entire life of expression. Like it's my favorite work. And I think everybody has that thing in their life, and they can choose to continue to be in a battle with it and to be frustrated with it and to let it make them collapse in on themselves and get small and like take the shape of smallness and frustration. Or you become an artist with it. Like you create a business out of it, or you make funny reels and videos or comedy or deep transformative events, experiences for people around this. But it's less about what you do with it, like write a book or create a business, but it's more so about your body. How do you begin to transmit out your dharma through your heart and your breath and your gaze and your adornments, and you start to take a new energetic shape that begins to attract. So when we're talking about like magnetism and manifesting and attracting and all those things, it's all about how you're carrying your body, all of it.
I love that. I mean, I feel like that's very much the journey that we've been on in terms of like, especially like with the podcast and everything and our like more spiritual journeys as well. Yeah, it's been a lot about learning how to like express, you know, ourselves and like authentically, despite, you know, our conservative upbringing, our parents and their, you know, ideologies of what our life should look like or all of that. Yeah.
What would you say is one of your like favorite daily practices for this?
Oh, that's a good question. Because I've had a lot over the years.
I have a lot of practices, and what I do now is a little bit different from like what I'm teaching and like the foundation of it.
Yeah.
But if I'm rooted in, like really what like this work is about, that really keeps you in that vessel. So one of the things I do is I infuse acting and improv as a relational tool.
Oh.
This was primarily what Artists of Love is about, is how do you use acting and specific acting modalities to open your channel just as woman. Like, we don't need to be trying to audition for something in order to feel all the different flavors of woman that lives inside of your one body.
Yeah.
And most people, they wake up, they're like, I'm Madelyn. This is what Madelyn does. This is how I am. This is how I be. And this is how I dress. And then that's y'all. And like, this is what you look like. And we're so separate. And I think this is what creates a lot of jealousy for people, is that they really feel separate from certain expressions of the feminine. And you've got something I don't have. But actually, nobody has anything you don't have.
Yeah.
We just had to turn on the way that our body transmit that very different flavor. And that takes time. So, you know, one of the things I've worked on.
That was a mind-blowing moment
Yeah.
for me.
Okay. I was like, let me take a pause.
I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, we have
That's
to.
fascinating.
We have to learn where she lives inside of your body, deep within the abyss of your heart and your womb. Go into that pocket, go into that place, and let her pour forth. And it takes time. So, one thing I learned is a really staple practice from a place called the Kimball Studio in New York City, is a very simple actor's practice where you stand up and you pick a spot on the wall, you keep your hands to your side, and you start the sentence stem, what I want you to know. And whoever pops up on the other side of the wall, first thing is who you're talking to. Don't change your mind. Don't search for a better person to talk to. Just on impulse. So let's say I'm looking at the wall, hands are to my side, and I think, see a face, and it's going to be my dad. What I want you to know is, and I just start sharing. Like, what I want you to know is, fuck, I wish I could feel you more. You're such a good human. And also, like, where the fuck are you? Like, I want to feel you. And like, whatever comes forward. And what I try to have students do is create some type of climactic moment at some point where you change your expression. So maybe you're talking through the lens of this calm, grounded, I miss you, and you're so great, Dad, but also fuck you. Like, just create change.
Yeah.
And then bring your whole body into it. It's just really fascinating how hard this is for a lot of people.
You know,
I'm
I
gonna
did that
try
with the
this.
universe
It's
earlier.
great.
I did that. Yeah. I mean, I've always done that, like with, more like talking to like the universe, the higher powers, the app. But I love that to like use it to like with someone, like with relationships that you actually, you know, need to like mend or, you know, express certain things that you haven't had an opportunity to express. And all of that.
You'll watch how stiff you become. It's really interesting. It's like, we can talk to the universe when it's not a practice and we're just in communion.
Yeah.
But the minute you're like, okay, I'm doing a thing, Dad, what I want you to know, Dad, is I love you very much. And also I want to, you know, it's like, it's so interesting to watch the body, the spirit inside the body pretty much just disassociate and leave itself. Just from creativity, just from what's inside. It's like, what is inside? And so then you can start building upon that once you start being able to make what you're saying more and more authentic and truthful. And you can start to mix it up and create different sentence stems. Like, when I saw you last year, I was really turned on. And then you take it from there. You see who pops up, and then you start talking about turn on, and you explore the expression of turn on, and you can choose something that's sad. You can choose something that's like angry or intimate, and you just see where it goes. So it's a good practice for cleaning the vessel that I've been doing for many years, especially when I'm looping in my mind and I get very like out of my body. I bring myself back in my body because there's some stuff I need to say. And this is a great time and a place to actually be able to cleanse the system and get the things through.
I really like this exercise and I need to do it like ASAP. But yeah, I think because especially like when you were saying like the body clamps up, because I feel like that's also just like a way of like the energy also just like getting stuck because you haven't let it out.
Yeah.
And then now you're trying to let it out, but then you're like almost afraid to. So.
Yes. And this is also why I bring in acting, because I mean, this exercise I'm telling you all about is about you doing it. But when you pick up when you start to pick up different like flavors, and you even can start to play with different, like maybe it's not you speaking, maybe it's the love addict in you. So maybe you let the love addict take front and center and does a what I want you to know, but it's not actually you. And so anybody who has acting experience knows that when you play a character, it's way less entangled with morale, and you don't have to worry so much about being a good person. And we're always trying to be enlightened and make everyone feel good, and just be really politically correct, and everyone's included. And like we start to lose our fire and our spark and our conviction and our beliefs. So if you have a time and a place where you get to explore being a fucking raging bitch from Jersey, and it's her, it's not you, it's this person that gets to do what I want you to know, and then maybe just make it up. Maybe it's nothing that you actually want to say to somebody, but she just needs the floor to say what I want you to know.
Yeah.
It's not you. And so we need these experiences, a time and a place, to be able to bring it all, and nobody is going to put you down for it or judge you for it or take it personally. It's just about you and your own expression, so you can clear that fucking vessel, because somewhere you're in there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that piles on top of a lot of people that is so not them.
Yeah.
So getting through all the shadow and all the gunk and all the stuff, freeze it up enough to give someone breathing space to feel spacious and be like, oh, wow, that was all mom. That was all dad. That was me when I was 5. And, you know, I actually have a lot of magic that I want to share with the world. And if I'm not so afraid of what people think of me, I actually have a chance to bring it through.
Mm-hmm. I love that you said that, because actually I was in therapy earlier, and and I remember you know, I was talking, we have kind of a strained relationship with our parents, and I remember I was, you know, saying something else like that. I think, you know, my mom's a great mom. She's just got so much of her shit on top of, and you know, and that's from her, you know, past and her you know, childhood things and whatnot, that like it gets in the way of our relationship, because like she hasn't, you know, in a lot of ways dealt with some of that. And so, and it kind of, you know, gave me the perspective that it's just like not to like take it personally, because like sometimes, and we can find that in any relationship, whether it's like, you know, you're in love with someone, but you feel like they're not showing up for you, or, you know, you like have a, you know, with a sibling or with a friend or whatever it may be, like, you know, to remember that like it may not necessarily be because like they want to actively like upset you or hurt you or whatever. It could just be that there's so much, like you said, kind of clouding on top of like their stuff that like you're not getting to the real them. And for that reason, like you're not having access to that. And so you can't build that. All those walls are there to kind of like keep you from building that relationship. So it can be a good perspective to have, that like sometimes like it's not you or anything that you're doing. It's like literally just the other person and the shit that they probably haven't dealt with. So
Yes. And I believe that emotions are a bit more like entities.
yeah.
Like they're actual. So let's like say that sharpness. Sharpness, like a parent that has sharpness, like here's sharpness at its own like creature. It's its own like living, breathing entity. And it's got a life that it lives, and it passes through different bodies because we're incredibly porous, right? So our bodies are super, super porous. We're water. We are taking in stuff all the time into our cells, and water means memory. So literally our bodies are holding these memories that are not all ours.
Yeah.
And on top of that, your heart emits a field 60 feet in front of you. So we're all in each other's heart spaces all the time. 60 feet in front of you, side of you, behind you, it's a 60-foot field that the heart radiates through. So if your body is porous, made of water, and you're taking in energy all day long, and you're walking in a city and you're like walking around all these people's hearts, you're receiving a lot. So chances are really high that we're picking up on these entities, this energy that's passing through, especially in our family system. We're in that heart space in a house all the time. We're trading. So when we do shadow work, let's say like there's something that someone's been dealing with for a long time, like not trusting men or hating men. You know, maybe they picked that up from their mom, who was left by your dad, and then was just like, I'm never going to trust another man again. And you're picking up on that all day long. It's like that energy might not be fully safely felt to the point of being freed with your mother because she's holding on to it. You receive it. And then if you're brave enough and you go into a container or a space, or you're listening to this, shadow work is about enacting those entities so that you can finally free them. I think that they are oftentimes looking for a vessel that is brave enough to give it an expression for, you know, it could even be like in my containers, we have these like 90 seconds, 90 seconds to play full out of what that shadow entity feels like. Like you let it go through your body. And then that entity is moving through your body for 90 seconds. And then you close it out and then you're completely like you're freed. We have rituals to like come back into your body. Thank you, shadow. You're now set free. But then we notice when we allow ourselves to enact it, like fully, it has less charge. People are laughing afterwards. There's space. It's like, oh my gosh, that was amazing to like actually feel the presence of this energy that has been clinging onto my system and my family system. And then it's freed. Of course, we still have sharpness. We still have these things because they're still, we're not getting rid of anything. We're just alchemizing it. And this is a way that we get our bodies back and we heal our lineage, which is what the fuck are we doing if it's not that?
100%. I love that because I feel that way about anger. Anger is such an emotion that like, you know, everyone wants to shy away from it because it's, you know, the product of anger can look very violent and negative and bad. And, you know, I don't think society teaches us very well about how to deal with anger at all. And so then like men have a lot of pent up anger, women have a lot of pent up anger. It comes out in different ways. And not even like in a binary way. I mean, for just in general, like it can come out in many ways. And so, you know, I just remember when I first got into my relationship with my partner, one of the things I told him, I was like, look, this is a space where like when you need to get angry, you can get angry. Like I'm not gonna sit there and tell you not to be angry about something, to thwart your emotions, to suppress them, to hide them. I'm like, if you feel like you need to give it space, like you communicate that to me and we can figure out how to give you that space together. Because I think that's so important. And
some people with field get so creative with their profiles, which I love. Like you know, I remember, or even just like, you know, when our friends send us a screenshot of someone's profile, like people will go all out.
Oh yeah.
They'll write everything that they like.
No, but I think that's the beauty of that space. Everyone's willing to just like paragraphs, and I mean paragraphs.
No, absolutely.
Bullet lists.
No, exactly. It's a whole novel.
You know exactly what you're getting into.
Yeah, it is transparent as fuck.
Yeah.
Which I think makes the app really strong for really open communication. Because I think all the vanilla dating apps just don't get it right with that. So
I know they use those stupid prompts, and I'm like, what's that actually going to tell me?
Yeah, no, exactly. I don't know what 2 truths and a lie from Paul are. Okay. And Field does have a new little constellation feature where you get to link profiles with others in your social circle. So then your new connections can see who else you're connected to.
Love that.
Guys, if you want to download Field, try it out, give it a go. You know, if maybe you're on the apps, go to Google Play or the Apple Store and download Field. That's F-E-E-L-D. F-E-E-L-D Field. DT fam, it is now April, which means 420 is around the corner, and I want to make sure everyone is prepared. I know I'm ordering some Via Hemp High Love because me and my boo we love us a little bit of hemp. So we're definitely going to celebrate this joyous holiday. And I think you should too. Now, of course, Via Hemp, I love their High Love gummies. I think they're great. They have a great product line in general. And they use organic and vegan hemp extracts, which are perfect for relaxation and rejuvenation. And yeah, they're made in the USA. They have award-winning customer service and quality ingredients sourced from the finest hemp for your peace of mind. And they're lab tested and certified. We have a promo code for you if you're looking to spice up your 420 this year. If you're 21 and plus, go check out the link to Via Hemp in our description and treat yourself to Via's annual Spring 420 sale. This is basically the Black Friday, up to 35% site-wide right now, and up to 50% off packs and bundles. And you get a free gift and more savings if this is your first order using our code DTFAM, and enjoy free shipping over $100. Again, click on the link in our episode description or click on Via Hemp on our link tree at doubleteamedads.com and use code DTFAM. We love when you guys support our show, and thank you so much.
I think so many of our issues, you know, in relationships as a whole come from suppressing emotions and not giving them that space.
Yeah.
So then they never have the ability. And I love that you said that, like, afterwards people find themselves like laughing or whatever and like kind of really feeling very liberated and free, because like the times that like I've really allowed myself to get into a space of anger when I felt it and I need to like let it out. Oh man, it feels so good after. And I feel like $1,000,000. And then I feel like I can go do anything. And so energies as a whole, like if we don't give them that space to go through us, like they're just going to all get stuck. And that, you know, I don't think people realize like that manifests in sickness, in, you know, like diseases that we have in our bodies, all of that. Like you have to constantly like keep everything like moving and flowing.
Yes.
So,
yes. Yeah. And it spreads.
Yeah.
It's like this is how things are passing through the family system, or it gets projected onto someone else in your life. But we're spreading it if we're not actually taking the time to do our work to move it through our systems and alchemize it. This is what alchemy is. It's that we're taking something in, we're turning out something different.
I love that.
Not even better. It's just something different, something that's actually conducive to communion and to love and to healing that we're trying to go for. I mean, when we think about our families, like my great grandpa was in World War II and he was shot like twice and he had to play dead in the snow because they continued to shoot at him. And so he had to play dead in the snow for 24 hours. So when I think about that, just like somatically what a human has to do in order to numb themselves so deeply that they are like bullets were going above his head, grazing his hair. Like they were still shooting at him and he just laid there. Like that's some somatic fucking capacity to just like
that is some trauma.
Be there and not move. And
It's terrifying.
And other things, like a lot of things that, you know, have happened. And so it's that of course gets immediately passed into my dad and like his siblings. And when we think we can really track what our ancestors that we know of went through, it puts a lot of perspective on the work that we're doing and why.
Yeah.
Like I'm feeling for my grandpa because he couldn't in that moment and he never really got to fully work through that in the healthiest way in his lifetime. But like I'm not in the snow with gunshots. I mean, I have the privilege and the space to do this work so that specific kind of trauma doesn't keep moving through being in relationship.
I love that you said that, because that was another thing that came up in therapy for me earlier. Is I was like looking back at like my relationship with my mother, and then my mother's relationship with her mother, and then her mother's relationship with her mother. And, you know, like our great grandmother lived in the countryside, and the, you know, thing for them was survival and, you know, work. That was like all they knew. And that was all my grandmother knew. And then, you know, that is like a lot of, you know, like my mom, I think so much like prioritizes like, you know, a good career so that you have like the resources to provide for yourself, because like her generations before her had to work very hard for their resources. And so like with us, you know, she'll project a lot of that onto us. And then also, you know, kind of like the normal things that also bring in resources like family and a husband and all of that. And so, yeah, I remember when I kind of pieced it all together and I kind of took like a step backwards, and I realized I was like, oh, like so much of like what the problems in my relationship with her stem from like all of those kind of generational issues that came before us. So if you don't think that stuff matters, it absolutely does. And like it affects every relationship. And then, you know, with your siblings too. So
yeah,
because I feel like for us, how many arguments have we had about, you know, things and resources and such. So yeah. What do you do for like spiritual protection? If you want to share. If you don't have to, because that in itself, I know sometimes people can be a little bit more what's the word I'm looking for, kind of close, like they keep their protection practices
Yeah,
close to
there
heart.
are some that are private because I'm working with some teachers and it's like, I'm a year in and I'm being blessed with so much stuff, but it's just like, it's an old lineage. It's just like, so some of my main things are private and close to my heart. And there's a lot of magic in bookending experiences, right? So like even speaking incantations, abracadabra, speaking our voice is really important when we're doing shadow work of saying like, I am allowing the spirit of Madelyn is safe, and I'm allowing her to fall into my back body in this moment, and I summon the shadow of sharpness.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 do the whole thing. And then I release the shadow of sharpness. You are safe to leave my vessel, and I bring forth the spirit of Madelyn in her totality and completeness and wholeness.
Love that.
And just like a bow. So like really learning how to bookend things, and then of course creating domes, carrying domes around your body. Really feeling yourself when you're entering, like sometimes like this weekend, I've been at a workshop and I've been on my moon and like I didn't get a car for this trip. So I've just been in Ubers. And like when I'm on my moon and I'm in Ubers, I'm just like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here right now. So I learned how to just create these like sacred dome orbs where it's just me and my body, nobody else. I'm not taking anything else with me. When I leave this Uber, I'm not taking any of your energy with me. It's just me and myself. Yeah, and you have your guides. You have your spirit guides, and really learning how to call upon them.
Love
Because they don't come unless you call.
Yeah.
Like you're like specifically.
Really?
I will.
Yeah, tell them to come all the time. Yeah.
I mean, we have our guardian angels, and we do have our guardians, but there are a lot of energies that don't come unless you call specifically. They want to be beckoned. It's like a lover. It's like a lover of longing, and then they know, like, okay, yes, I'm coming.
What? So, with a lot of like your like spiritual and kind of energetic beliefs, like how do you take that into, are you single or partnered?
Yes.
Okay, how do you take that into like your search or even just kind of like your more casual experiences if you do have casual experiences? I'm curious what that looks like.
And just so I'm clear, my spiritual, like how do I...
Or kind of just like kind of your energetic, like, because I feel like it took me a long time to kind of use a little bit more discernment in, bringing other people's energies into like my own, like especially for like casual sexual experiences. I went from very like open, just kind of like, let's, try everything out, to suddenly I was like, no, you know what? I need to protect my energy and like really use discernment and make sure that I'm only allowing the people that are like worthy of of me and my body to like, enter into this space with me. And then I became very kind of like closed off. And even though that transition kind of took, a few years to do, it did kind of like feel like an epiphany all of a sudden where I was like, oh, I cannot believe that this wasn't what I was doing earlier, And so, but I think it helped me gain a lot more clarity. But yeah, I'm curious like what that has done to like your journey and, more intimate experiences.
Yeah. So I've rarely, I mean, of course I've had sex with people who are not my partners, and I didn't really think I would be their partner either. Like I've had fun experiences, but I've never really been someone for much casual sex. It's like normally pretty much go in the deep end immediately. It's like, like desiring to create these experiences and like wanting to do that with someone who I've created trust with, and we're going somewhere and we see each other because like all the heartgasms and all these things. And I'm in a moment now actually where I'm kind of exploring a little bit more what it's like to be intimate with people without having like deep committed, path together forward.
Yeah.
And it's not a whole bunch of casual sex, but just like being in more environments that are conducive to play. Yeah. Just like play and like trading erotic energy without it being sex, but just being with people who are like into erotic energy and just like having fun. And I find that those spaces are so supportive and actually rebuilding trust that you lose in the relationship experiences.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Like when your heart was dropped, like in spaces that are held really well, or creating adventures with people that are held really well with good tight boundaries, and you're creating agreements together, you get to rebuild a lot of trust with people because you're meeting those agreements together.
I would definitely say that like as you become like more, or I found in my experience, as you become more like spiritual and aware of like, just like your energy and the energy of the people that you're accepting, into your, field and all of that, like it does kind of put you at like odds with like casual sex and things like that. And so, but you don't, but sometimes like you don't want every experience to feel so serious and so like, you know, tied to like a future commitment or something like that. And so it takes a lot of work into kind of figuring out how to like rebalance that. But I love what you said about it, like also being healing in a way, because then you kind of get to like rewrite that whole experience and make it just a lot more intentional and make it a lot more aligned while still getting to like enjoy just like something that is fun and freeing and liberating without it like necessarily being tied to like a long-term commitment. I assume Kimmy's workshop was kind of like that experience for you.
Yeah. I went to Kimmy Inch's workshop, and I've known Kimmy for a while, and I've just never done anything of hers, and it was just so great to be in this like experience with people, and just there's so much heart, and I love, like, I've always loved to be intimate and close with my friends, and just like having little sweet ceremony and journey nights with my friends, and we're just like in these deep like tantric spaces. There's no sex or anything, it's just like heart and heart, you know, and I really really love that. And sometimes, you know, like relationship sometimes can be I think especially when you're in your mid 30s. I'm in my earlier 30s. I'm 33. But like even around this time, something else starts to kind of run the ship when you're dating.
Yeah.
It's like you feel like this biological energy that's kind of just like,
Oh, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Yeah.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, my conversations when people are interested in me look very different from when they did even 2 years ago, even maybe in last year. There's a big shift between 32 and 33 that I felt in my system.
We're 31.
Or
Okay,
definitely, yeah, definitely 31. Yeah, so I am really aware of that like primal biological part of myself and wanting to keep her in check. Because there is no need to rush, and rushing into things is what I find often steers us into the wrong direction. And so really learning how to like continue to fill your cup up with eros and with connection with people without feeling like every connection you meet, they need to like become the one, because then you end up projecting a lot, and creating a lot of stories of like, oh my gosh. I mean, my personal belief is that so much of a crush is watching a projection screen. When you have a crush on someone, it's all imagination of who they are, the life you'll live, how they'll love you, how they'll respond to things. And it's also beautiful. Having a crush is sweet and beautiful and warming and innocent. And when you are in your 30s, I just seen this happen to a lot of people. When you combine that, the ability to buy into your own projections with your biological clock energy, it's just like, it does not always end up the way that you want it to end up. So learning how to really create slowness and an honest pace where you can still be deep is really important, especially for the spiritual folk who like really prioritize their energy field. It's a lot. It takes a lot of energy to be dating and to be in connection with people. And if you really care about your energy, you go slow. Yeah. Kind of my thought on that.
I love one of my favorite quotes is a crush is just a lack of information.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
it is so true.
And I think about a lot of my previous crushes, and I'm like, yep, I just didn't know the reality.
Yes.
So a lot of your work is around expression, which I love that. And I was going to ask, like, so what would you know, or if you have clients that struggle with like figuring out how to express themselves, like what is your advice for a lot of those people? Because I feel like for us, like having been in the non-monogamous space and the BDSM space a lot, you know, a lot of it, especially people that want to get into those spaces, is the people that are like starting to figure out that they want to learn to express the different parts of themselves. You know, whether that's like exploring bisexuality or, you know, trying different experiences or, you know, leaning into the kinks that they've just like kind of had dormant in them for so long and like learning how to express them. And so I think those environments are really beautiful for, you know, people really starting to learn expression. But what's, you know, when it comes to your work or how like you deal with that, what is your advice?
Well, there's a couple different ways we can go with this. Would you like the love category, or do you want to?
Sure. Yeah, we can do love. Yeah.
Okay. So I teach something called creativity and love, and I think it's a really great starting point. have a program called Creativity and Love. Artist of Love is a lot about being creative and love.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this idea that you can turn water into wine in your relationship. So we've been focusing a lot on like, you know, trauma and like entities and triggers and like how we alchemize that. Well, we alchemize it also in love. The wounds and the fights and the fears that we have come up in love are so supercharged because they have so much familial energy in it. It's like we oftentimes will find partners that feel like the best and worst qualities of our parents combined. Not always, but a lot of times people do that. It's like, oh, wow, you have the charisma of my dad, but you have the, you know, clarity of my mom, but also you have the addiction of my dad and you have the spite of my mom. And it's like, but you're this one person, I love you. And I like, take care of me, please, but I love you. And I want to strangle you. And like, you know, all this intensity. And
That's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're actually in a really great place if you're with somebody that evokes those feelings because you have an opportunity to transform it and to shift it. And so the concept of being in the practice of being creative in love is to take a situation in your relationship and create art out of it in any way, shape, or form. So I'll share a story of one specific direction that I took this. In one of my relationships early on, I was with a partner and he was just my muse in a lot of ways. Like he inspired all my rage and he inspired all my love and all my devotion and all my heart and all my anger and like just so much activation with him. And I'm really sensitive to life force. I think we all are. But so I just would feel a lot of energy running through my system. And I was like, I have to create stuff. So we got together when I was on my moon. And then a month later, we broke up when I was on my moon. And, or at least like a week before. So we were together. I mean, this first beginning was like 3 weeks we were together. We ended up being together a lot longer later. But we broke up about 3 weeks in. Week of silence goes by. We ended like our conversation with like one last thing, and he said one last thing, and I'm just trying to get in our last word. So finally, all the dust settled. I start my period again a week later, and I was like, you know what? I kind of feel like making some art out of this. And I also like at the same time wanted to extend an olive branch. I wanted to extend an olive branch of connection in a kind of Madelyn dark way.
Yeah.
So I went to the bathroom. I got all my moon blood.
Yeah.
Blood clots, all the things, covered my whole hand in it. And yeah, and I flipped him off and I took a picture of it, just totally demolished. And I just said, happy 1 month. And I emailed it to him.
I love a
I
good
can see
email.
why you and Leola are
Love
friends.
a good email.
Yeah. So I said, happy 1 month. And he loves that. He loves that kind of stuff. So he immediately called me, was like, can I tell you the 10 things that I wish I did better in our last connection? And he just took that and I was like, yes, you can. And then we ended up being on and off for another couple years.
Wow.
On and off. So, you know, there was still we had a lot of art to make, but it was a continuous experience of coming back to love. I think this is the thing a lot of people don't understand is that you're like that, you know, when you just hear of it, of like flipping someone off and sending a photo, that is an open heart. That was vulnerable. I was giving, and he felt that. He was like, oh, she's leaning in. Thank you.
Yeah.
So it doesn't need to be a lean in of like, I'm sorry, it was me. I shouldn't have done that. You know, that is one teeny fucking tiny way of leaning in, and it's really not that inspiring.
Yeah.
What if you leaned in with your ferocity and your fire and your artistry, and like you can say fuck you in 10,000 different types of beautiful ways that is an invitation for someone to lean back in and do better. And that's what I want people to start to explore and experiment with. What are all the ways you can really say the truth of your heart in a way that's generous? It's inviting someone in, but it's also like spicy, or it can be sweet, and you can have pigtails in your hair, or you can stomp your feet, or you can, you know, it's like classic, have a pizza delivered with M&Ms that say, I'm sorry. It's like all of those fun ways that we can think of creating art in a moment of tension and sadness and upset. That's not a long ass text.
I love that.
You do not need to explain your whole story in a text. Just do something, drop it, and see what happens.
That's phenomenal. I am definitely when I'm very in my loviness, and whether that's like positive or, well, no, I don't want to say positive or negative. Whether that's on the spectrum of like I am totally in love or this person is frustrating the heck out of me. You know, I go to creativity. I write poems. I love, actually, that's probably the main thing that I do is I write a lot of poems.
I like poems too.
And so I have like a whole notes section of like all the poems that I've written my boyfriend, you know, in our time together. And like sometimes, you know, they're really sweet and really cute. Other times, like there's a lot of deep emotion in there and like it's tied to a lot of trauma and it's not fun. And he loves reading them, and it makes me so happy that like he loves them and is always like so happy to see them. And or sometimes like, you know, I'll like draw like a little, you know, sticky note of like our future house and children and the cars that we want and like whatever, like silly things, and put those around the house and things like that. And I resonate with that so much, because sometimes I feel like you forget that like there aren't just words. And even though poems are words, like I think it's still such a different expression, because like you're using a lot of different meanings in the words that you're using, but like there are so many ways that you can communicate. And I love what you said about how like that was such like a, you know, even if you're flipping him off, like that was such a vulnerable, like open space, because you're absolutely right. It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very
ballsy.
vulnerable. It's
Yeah.
ballsy. And you just do it over and over and over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
You just keep showing up, and it's a much more feminine way.
Mm-hmm.
It's a much more feminine way to express and to show the truth of your heart, rather than, you know, explaining this happened and then you did this and then my feelings were hurt and blah, 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 blah. Like, what if you just made something out of it? You didn't have to explain yourself, and you didn't even like explain the art. Like in my flipping off, I didn't explain. I'm sending this to you because I had a moment of upset today, and then I ignored it, and like I didn't explain it. It's like you go to a museum, there you don't read the little card that explains what you're supposed to feel. You just look at it, and then you see. Yeah, you know, and if your intention is strong enough, the person receiving it is going to feel exactly what you meant. Exactly.
That is beautiful. That is art. I can see. I am very excited.
I'm actually
to read
really
this.
excited to read this.
I know,
Yay.
me too. I'm like, I'm so excited. And then it had me thinking, I'm like, okay, well, if for women it's like our period blood and like the middle finger, like what would it be for a man? Like semen?
Totally. Anything they want. You know, semen, like they put it in a jar and then they just create art with it. Finger paint with it.
Wait, put it in a jar.
Put it in a jar. I was gonna say something else, and then I just got distracted, and I just realized maybe I shouldn't say it. But you know, art is endless.
You know what? Yeah. So women, use your period blood. Men, use your semen. Thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah,
I love everything you represent.
Oh, thank you.
I'm feeling inspired to work through a little blockage I have right now. So
Great. Yay.
Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Madelyn Moon, Madelyn Moon. And then my website is maddymoon.com. I've got a podcast, I've got a membership, I've got events. So everything can be found on my website.
Well, thank you for coming on. TT fam, you know where to find us. TTpodcast.com has all relevant links.
That's it. We'll see you guys next time. And
Wear
honestly,
condoms.
Yeah, wear condoms.